Well, hi, I'm John Hart, and welcome back to Mr. America Hart. All right, those carbs that you are so avoiding in the effort to drop your body fat. Those carbs, yes. Here's the thing. If you look towards the bodybuilding community, and I mean, doesn't matter, natural, drug enhanced. If you look to the bodybuilding community, you'll find that bodybuilders in general are masters of body composition change. So when it comes to preparing for a contest, dropping body fat, retaining lean muscle mass at the same time, or even gaining lean muscle mass, they have it on lock, okay? So it's a group of people that we can look to see how they diet, how they prepare themselves to get the leanest they possibly can. We can learn from this, okay? So I'm going to share with you how we can learn from this. And then I'm also going to give you at the end of this one exception to all the rules, okay? So let's learn from the bodybuilders. All right, so even on the most stringent diet from the very beginning, when we're talking about contest preparation and beginning that diet, the diet is done in stages. So in order to become the leanest that you can get, you have to account for the fact that at some point in time, your metabolism is going to fight back, shut down, adjust. This is probably the best word, adjust to whatever you're doing to it. So if you are attempting to drop body fat and burn it off, your body at some point in time is going to detect that, and it's going to slow down all of its metabolic processes in an effort to preserve as much energy as possible. That's a survival mechanism in our bodies that God gave to us. Now, at some point in time, that diet, though, when you start as opposed to when you end, if you have 16 weeks to get in the best shape possible, let's say, in the course of those 16 weeks, you want to be eating those carbs mostly at the beginning of the 16 weeks. At least you have something to pull from, something to reduce from, something to take out of the diet. And I don't mean eating carbs all day long, of course. Bodybuilders in general keep the carbs around their training session. That's when they need them the most. That's when they need them energy to train on, as well as assisting immediate recovery after the workout. So if it's a non-training day, those carbs are generally in the morning at breakfast. Why? Well, because you're doing your daily activities. You're going to work, you're moving around all day long, and then, of course, by the end of the day, you're not moving as much, generally speaking, unless you work a nighttime job, in which case you have to account for it all entirely different. That's another case, not for today. So let's just take the majority who work during the day. You want to keep those carbs early in the day so that later in the day, you're relying mainly on protein and some fat sources, some healthy fat sources, to keep the blood sugar lower. At that point, all food affects blood sugar to a degree, but what we're looking at here is eating the carbs, even on a fat loss program, even on a fat burning program. We want to eat the carbs. Why? It's protein sparing. Now, I know a bunch of y'all have been convinced that carbs are not necessary, and please feel free, comment down below in the comments section. I'd love to see what you have to say. But eating the carbs, again, we're referencing the bodybuilding community as the example of those who have shown us a great way to drop body fat as low as possible and retain lean muscle mass. It's a general goal. Even all the clients that I've had over the years at least want to retain their lean muscle mass. A lot of them want to gain lean muscle mass at the same time. So knowing that that's a similar goal, I look to that population. General bodybuilding diets at the beginning of a diet cycle have carbohydrates as much as possible. So they'll be in the majority of the meals from morning through midday, even into early afternoon, and then usually they're dropped for the evening meal. Eventually, that type of eating program starts to stall. Body fat is no longer being burned off at the same rate. Body weight has not dropped at the same rate, or even hardly at all. So what do? Well, you start pulling some of those carbs, which also equals pulling calories. So you start pulling some of those carbs from which end? You don't take them from breakfast, you take them from the later end in the day. And hopefully you're getting in your training somewhere earlier in the day, so you can have carbs before and after your training. If you're not, and you're training in the evening, which a bunch of you do, then of course, by all means, bracket your workout. Have carbs right before training, carbs after training, immediately after. And then don't have them all throughout the rest of the day. So either way, you're bracketing it around your training. And then, of course, when it comes down to it and the metabolism slows down or adjusts, it adjusts for that fat burning situation to try and preserve itself. You go ahead and you start pulling carbs from which meal? Again, from the last meal of the day. And then you move it backwards. So at the beginning of 16 weeks, it may look as if you're eating 6 meals a day, 6 feedings a day. 5 of those may contain carbs. And let's say you train, in the morning time. So you're getting carbs around your workout. As you go through that diet, 4 weeks into it, maybe you pull the carbs from meal number 5. So now you're having 4 meals with carbs, 2 with no carbs at the end of the day, just protein and healthy fats. So you go ahead and do that. Another 4 weeks go by, maybe you go ahead and drop those carbs from meal number 4. So now you're having 3 meals that do have protein, carbs, and a little bit of fat. But then you also have 3 meals that just contain protein, fats, and minor carbs, maybe in the form of a green leafy vegetable later on in the day. So what am I trying to say? I'm saying eat your carbs. You need your carbs to train on. You need your carbs for muscle fullness. All right? Even the bodybuilders going back to the 70s who, subsisted, who lived on, protein and fats, even they did eat carbs 1 day a week. Good friend of mine, Ric Drasin, I did many shows with him. He was an old training partner of Arnold's, and the stories he would tell, you can go back to his channel, Ric Drasin, and check out all the videos we did together, and you'll hear him talk about diet and how they used to eat 6 days a week. They'd have very low carb, but then 1 day a week they would eat the carbs. So carbs were in there, some way, shape, or form. They were in there. Did they live on that year-round that way? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. There was always a time for more balance. So what I'm putting forth to you is, if you're on a fat-burning program and you're going to go ahead and play or manipulate with your carbs, at the beginning of that diet program, you want to have the most carbs. At the end of it, when you're really squeaking out those last few pounds of body fat, I did this many times in my bodybuilding career where I got super lean and I ate carbs all the time. Myself, my training partner, one of the best training partners I've ever had, Steve Ballinger, for years. He'd get ripped to the bone and he would eat carbs. He was eating spaghetti as part of his diet on a fat loss program, fat burning program. So eat those carbs. Again, they're protein sparing, but it's also going to keep you mentally in the game for a longer period of time because you're not in total deprivation. You just don't go 0 carb when you do such a thing. If fat burning is your goal, at the beginning of that eating plan, keep the carbs in, pull them as you go week by week or month by month. And then eventually you have only 1 meal a day, breakfast, where you're eating the carbs, or you just have a little bit before training and a little bit after training. And then the rest of your day is protein, fats, healthy fats, and fibrous vegetables, green leafy vegetables. So this is my experience. This is the experience that I've seen and witnessed in the bodybuilding community for the last 40 years, and it's what I'm sharing with you right now. The idea here is carbs are not the devil. It's a macronutrient that we can manipulate to get a really great result. And bodybuilders in particular have done it, been masters of it. They don't go dieting on 0 carb to get the best results. And that's pretty much it. So keep those carbs in there in your diet. Manipulate them properly. If you're having trouble, figuring out the best way of doing such a thing, then hire yourself a good nutritional coach out there, or a training coach, or a diet coach. Find one Ask them. You'll see the programs that they give are, generally speaking, they're going to have carbs in them. They don't just pull all carbs unless you only hire them for a month, in which case there's pressure on that coach to go ahead and get results within that month, and thinking they're not going to see you anymore. And they may pull too many triggers and, eliminate all those carbs in a short period of time. Now, I promised you there is one exception to all of the rules. If you have bad health markers and you find yourself obese or morbidly obese, and you are not pre-diabetic, but you are type 2 diabetic, you've brought that on yourself by your diet as you've gone along eating a really bad diet, basically, and gotten morbidly obese. In that case, where usually not just one system is stressed, it's usually not just the pancreas and blood sugar levels are off, the sugars are too high most times a day. It's not just that. It usually affects other systems in the body. And in that situation where we're talking about getting your health in line as fast as possible, your life may depend on it. Those are the only situations in the past where I, as a coach, pulled all of the carbs. I pulled them all from clients that I had. And when I would do that, their health markers would immediately, their A1C would immediately start to drop down and come in line. Their sugars, their blood sugars that they would test on a regular basis each day would immediately come in line, drop down into a healthy 70 to 120. That would be the accepted standard range, 70 to 120, especially, waking up in the mornings. So these were some of the things that I would do and, that I had recommended to my clients. That is the one exception that I've used, is if their health is at stake and their body is in complete distress, I yank those carbs completely. And they live on protein and healthy fats and very few fibrous vegetables, enough for the elimination, let's say, enough so they can go to the bathroom. There you go. So that would be pretty much the big exception that I would use. And, it's reversible. They can get out of that bad disease state and possibly save their lives and any other side effects that could come from that disease. But that's pretty much it for today. From my heart to you, John Hart, just keep those carbs in there. Hey, before you go, off to my left, before I forget, there's a disc about to pop up. You see that thing right there? That is the subscribe button for my channel. Before you go, please give that thing a tap right there. And then down below, off to your left, you're going to see a thumbs up. That thumbs up alerts the YouTube algorithm that you really like my videos, and it helps the channel out a lot, which I really appreciate. Just give that thing a tap and turn it blue. I'll see you next time.